What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. This video is also brought to you by two things. Since we don't do any sponsorships here on the channel, I'll show them out real quick. The first is my music, which is available anywhere you stream music under the name Aftersound, and the second is a new podcast I just launched on my YouTube music channel called Chasing Infinity. It is myself and ChatGPT as my AI co-host, and we dive into a bunch of fun and different topics. So check it out. Links in the description below. Let me know what you think, and I appreciate the support. Okay, guys, let's jump into a game-changing, jaw-dropping proposal here that came in last night. You can see 13 hours ago from when I'm recording this. And I already did a live stream on it. To be expected, it was a bit salty, and it was a bit of a downer, right? Probably a perfect start to the opposite of Uptober that we could have gotten. And so I'm just going to go over it here now. I've had a night to sleep on it and talk about it a little bit more. Plus, I want to share some of the voices or some of the comments that have come in from here and then also on Discord from Cryptomancer himself. So here's the basic gist of it. I don't want to read this entire thing to you, but obviously we know that Splinterlands, the company, is trying to reduce expenses as much as possible. So we've been working to reduce our non-payroll expenses down as much as we reasonably can, and we continue to work that. But we're also trying to find ways to reduce our payroll expenses, which make up the bulk of our overall costs at this point, which, again, that makes sense. So to this end, they are proposing that the DAO hires Cryptomancer to continue building out the secret of Pretoria land expansion effective as of October 1st, 2024, so a couple days ago. This will help the company out significantly, and we strongly urge SPS stakeholder community to approve this proposal. Now, Cryptomancer's rate is $90 an hour, would be capped at 160 billable hours, or about $14,400 per month. In some cases, due to time off and other circumstances, the monthly total will come to less than that, but this proposal will last for 1 year unless the DAO votes to cancel or modify it before then, at which point it will end and a new proposal will need to be passed to renew it beyond that. So Cryptomancer is extremely detailed and organized and will provide to the community detailed timesheets and updates on his progress on a monthly basis, which will serve as the work to invoice the DAO. The monthly invoice will be paid to the DAO treasuries in either USDT or a bunch of these different currencies on Ethereum or BNB chain to the EVM wallet provided out there. If this is approved, Cryptomancer will still be a part of the Splinterlands team and will continue to work with the rest of the team as normal to develop the secret of Pretoria expansion. The specific tasks or features that he works on related to the expansion and their priorities will still be determined by the Splinterlands company unless a future governance proposal is passed that specifies otherwise. We understand that the DAO does not have unlimited funds and that the community needs to be careful and smart about how the funds are used. So we would not even submit a proposal like this unless we felt it was absolutely necessary, and we expect it to ultimately benefit the community more than it will cost in the long run. If, however, it doesn't pass, they're not going to let Cryptomancer go, but here's the key. We plan to keep him on the team. However, we will be put in a very difficult position of needing to make cuts in other areas, and as they said already, they've cut as much as they can non-payroll expenses, so that would probably mean reducing the staff elsewhere, at a point where we already reduced the team down to what we consider the bare minimum necessary to continue at a reasonable rate of development. So that's the main thing there. Like I said, I gave an entire live stream with my thoughts, but to summarize it real quick for you guys here, just because I don't expect you to go watch the live stream, I feel like we are, well, let me rephrase that. In this scenario, I don't believe we have a choice. So I'm voting for it, but I want to vote for it is where I got to last night. At this point, right, it kind of feels like a little bit of gun to your head because we need to keep this going. And in a sense, like, I understand land essentially getting put into the back burner. As much as I would love that, as much as I personally would love that, because that's how I just think land has really, really handicapped this game in so many ways. And probably, if Splinterlands does fail, let me be very clear about this. If Splinterlands does fail, it will be because land was way beyond the scope that it should have been. So that's my hill that I'm going to die on. Yes, there were a bunch of other things. The team went in a bunch of different directions, and that's fine. But you go back to 2023 and what really handicapped the entire company last year. Sure, you can point to GLG and whatever, but like land put everything else on the back burner. Last year, they had to get land out, right? If land hadn't been there, they could have been developing other things for Splinterlands in addition to GLG and all this other stuff, right? But land is the thing that has severely handicapped this game, and if it dies, I will blame land ultimately. That being said, let's look at the positives here, right? So I am going to, as I said earlier, I am voting for this. I don't feel great about it, but I think it's something that we have to do. I would like to feel better about voting for it. And so, in my opinion, I would, if the DAO is paying for it, right, as an SPS stakeholder, and my stake isn't that high, but again, I'm voicing my opinion here, right? So, as an SPS stakeholder, I would actually want a little bit more control and a little bit more transparency over what Cryptomancer is actually working on for land. I've said many times, and I've made many videos talking about how land needs to be scaled down. The scope of land needs to be scaled down. Like 2.0, it would only happen next year if we had like Illuvium or parallel money. We don't, right? So we need to figure out a way in which we can get to land 2.0, but in much more manageable chunks. And I know Matt has talked about, 1.7 and grain and resources and stuff like that. Okay, that's fine. But I one of the things that I put out recently was like, we need to get items and spells into the game. And they like land needs to be delivering something of value. And I'm not even talking financially, right? Just something of value to the game that makes people want to participate in it. So whether it's the scarecrow idea that I had, whether it's the barricade idea that I had, land needs to provide something. And that something needs to be here, in my opinion, in the next like 6 months. So like whatever, we can still go towards 2.0. We can still make our way towards 2.0. I'm not saying to take the scope of that down, right? I'm not saying to destroy the vision, but the road that we take there, right? The destination remains the same, but the road we take there needs to absolutely change, and we need to make a lot more pit stops on the way, right? So instead of 3 resources, add 1. Right? Add 1 resources, get it done by the end of this year, and then in January, get an item into the game, right? A wood barricade. And then later on, you can add in a steel barricade or whatever you want to do, right? But at this point, land needs to be producing something because it's not providing any significant value to the ecosystem, in my opinion. So that's where I stand on it, right? If I'm voting for this, I want to vote for it, and I want to have a little bit more of a say in where we go from here on land. Again, just my opinion. I know it doesn't count for much, but that's just my thought on it. So let's quickly go over some of the other voices here of names that you might recognize. So I'm not going to read all this to you, but Fat Jimmy saying, land does not generate revenue. There needs to be a focus on new player experience only. And we should be bringing, if anything, we should be bringing and paying Cryptomancer to focus on new player experience. Get that done, because new player experience is what's required in order for the team to do marketing and bring in significant players, right? People's Guild, again, I agree with B. Jangles on this. Like, land is such an albatross, and I hate to say it, but land is going to bury us. In my opinion, nobody, including Cryptomancer, should be working on anything land related, as none of it will matter if we don't get any new players. So I think, and again, I agree with where they're coming from. Actually, let me refresh this to see if there's any. Oh yeah, there's a couple new ones here. So I agree in theory. Like land should have been dropped a while ago, like last summer. But I think that would probably cause an exodus of the game from massive whales. So, and when I say land dropped, I'm being a little hyperbolic with that, right? I mean, land just needs to be put on the back burner until the game can be in a place where it's profitable. The game right now, the only thing that people come in and really, really care about is the actual traded card game. And I know some land barons are going to disagree with me on that. And I'm not trying to offend the land barons. Not at all, right? It's just, yeah, the land thing is cool. But if you're being honest with yourself, you're coming in and clicking a couple of buttons a day, right? Sure, you have to go and like manage your different things, but like if once you make it self-sufficient, there's nothing else that's involved, right? You come in, you click a couple buttons. If you're not self-sufficient, you go buy some grain off the market, which grain is going for stupidly cheap. Like that to me is not like it's an idle clicker that's not adding value to the primary revenue generators in this game. So Dave says, we all know Cryptomancer is excellent, highly respected by all. This vote is not about whether or not to have Mancer around. It's about whether or not to make cuts in other areas versus having the DAO fund the expected shortfall. Actually, you know what? I want to be very clear about this as well. I like Cryptomancer. I got to meet him personally at Splinterfest, which was 2 years ago at this point. How the world has changed, how the Splinterlands universe has changed. But I got to meet him, and again, I mean, it was like a short meeting. We didn't have that much of a conversation, but I know he's contributed a lot to this game. I know that he is, highly motivated to see it succeed as well as a huge asset holder. So I don't view anything in a negative light when it comes to Cryptomancer for this. All right, let's see if there's anything else here. Claiborne says, I think we should have a down haul. Yep, absolutely. Thanks to Clay for pushing that. All right, so why do we push payment by hour, not by project? Or if the project was worth 100K to K, why not pay installments on progress? That's an interesting thought. All right, so GhostBG says totally agree with him. All right, so lots of stuff here. Let me actually go over to Discord, and then we can wrap this video up. So Discord. Okay, so this was a thread that Clay created for it. So I just want to give you his thoughts, and then Cryptomancer responded. So Clay says, I'll share my thoughts. As far as hiring Cryptomancer, I have zero concerns in that regard. I've worked with him in some capacity for years, and he always gets projects done at a pretty good pace. Clearly, he's about as heavily invested in the ecosystem as you can get, so he's got plenty of incentive to get land developed. To address some of the concerns, technically, yes, the DAO can afford it. But this is kind of pushing our limits, so likely no more spending for a while. I don't think Matt should be making this proposal. I don't think Matt would be making this proposal if the situation didn't warrant it. Do I think land is important? I think land utilization getting land utilization up is very important. Right now, land is just kind of a nothing burger, in my opinion. Land needs to be producing something of value besides SPS inflation to make it worth using. If land can start producing items and spells, they're valuable, critical to the gameplay. Then people will be scrambling to either get land on, or it'll generate just more volume across the market. From what I'm reading from the proposal, which is my assumption to the extent, if this proposal doesn't pass, they'll likely keep Cryptomancer and drop someone else. So I think we're all on the same page there. Now here's Cryptomancer's response. So thanks, Claiborne, for starting this discussion. Let's see if we can work out a time sometime next week before the pre-proposal round ends to have a down haul on this. I'd like to talk about my background for those who don't know me, what I've done for Splinterlands over the past several years, what I'm doing now, and why I think this proposal is important, and give the community a chance to ask me whatever questions they want. Okay, so I think that this is important, not because, actually, I hate the fact that Cryptomancer is trying to sell himself, because, again, I don't think he needs to do that. But I do believe the downhaul is important to ask questions, because, like I said, I want more clarity on, like, what are we doing with land to get functional land out in the next 3 to 6 months, right? Like that's what I want. A game plan to get one resource and one item out. That's my push, right? That's all I want. If you can get that in the next 6 months, I'm in, right? Because in the 6 months after that, we can start to figure out what else land can have in, and hopefully we'll be in a much better position if the market starts to pick up. Again, I hate saying that, because now this reminds me of like where we were a year ago when Aggie was saying like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's about to go nuclear. Like I don't like relying on that, but at this point, let's take it 6 months at a time. All right, regarding some comments I've seen about the proposal already, regardless of whether or not the proposal passes, I'll stay on land. I would have liked to be on land from the beginning, but better late than never. I've spent a couple months gearing up for land, so to speak, and that time would be wasted if I switch projects now. Okay, so that's probably important to know. Context switching in the middle of large projects has an opportunity cost. Currently, I'm the only dedicated land dev, and it makes sense to keep it that way. Most of the rest of the team is focused on NPE, and those are going well. Okay. He says having me on land does not detract from NPE. Really, this proposal is just another cost-saving effort on the part of the company. Talking with the Yaba Matt before this proposal made me realize that it's fairly critical that the company find a way to further reduce costs, and soon. Yaba believes the DAO can help out a lot in that regard. So let me go ahead and end the video here, because that's really where things are at. If you want to join the discussion, I recommend jumping into Discord as people are discussing there. But that is the state of the game as it stands. I'll be honest, I cannot wait to see the comments on this, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of people gloating. And you know what? You have every right to, because you were right about this. So let me go ahead and end the video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll catch you all in the next one and see you around the game. Take care.